Hey everybody, this is Thomas here with another Source Filmmaker tutorial for the Graph Editor, and today we're going to be talking about a special style, a very important aspect of animating, especially full body animating in the Graph Editor, called pose-to-pose animation. And the whole concept of pose-to-pose is just like it sounds. I've got some keyframes here I want you to focus on. We've just got 5 of them here, and I'm going to scrub through them with the bracket keys. The idea is that you have a set number of key poses that define the animation, and then you build the animation around those key poses, because ultimately the poses are what makes up the vitality of the shot. So today I'm going to use as a demonstration the Scout jumping, and instead of using a preset animation or a in-game recorded animation, we're going to be doing everything ourselves in the Graph Editor with no help from the Motion Editor or from recording with the Shot Editor. So what we're going to do is we're going to start with these existing poses. You'll see there's 5 of them. And now this is what I'm doing here, scrubbing through these bookmarks. What some people will do is step keys. That way they could just scrub through it and get a sense of the timing. But for now, we're not concerned about timing. We're just looking at the poses. So we've got the keyframes, and we've got here the Scout standing. He'll crouch down. He'll jump into the air, and then this would be the peak of his jump. And then he'll land, and then he'll stand back up. And that's it. That's what we're going to be working on. Now, if I were to play this animation, I'm going to press the up arrow to go to the beginning, and then spacebar to play. You can see that it kind of does that. It's it gives us. I mean, honestly, this works for if technically I wanted to create a motion where the Scout is crouching and then jumping, and then landing, and then standing. Then we're good to go. There we go. We did it. But the whole idea of the Graph Editor is to create something specific. So what we want to do now is establish what we call in-betweens. So, for example, now that obviously this pose looks great, that's exactly what we want. And the question is, how do we get from point A to point B? And the answer is in-betweens. So what we do is we find a point halfway through, usually, the shot, and we're going to create a new pose to go between the poses. And the important thing here is everything needs to flow in as realistic or as a pleasing to the eye motion as possible. So let's start first with the foot. When you jump, typically you're going to have at least one foot planted until the momentum carries you off the ground. So for this shot, we're going to first of all select the whole Scout, because pretty much everything is wrong. Press the M key and we're going to create the in-between. Oh, and by the way, we wouldn't get to in-betweening until we were absolutely happy with the poses that we have, which at this point in time we are. So let's look at the foot as an example. We want the foot to still be on the ground. So if we look at everything, you'll notice everything is exactly halfway between here and here. So the foot ends up here, and it ends up exactly halfway, and that is absolutely not what we want. We want it to just be right here on the ground where it was before. So what we're going to do, just select these keys, copy them, and then paste them into the bookmark that we're already on. And you'll notice there it is, foot's on the ground. You'll notice that this is not the motion that we wanted, and the reason for that is because we're not on linear curves. So we select that, choose linear, and now we shouldn't get any of that extra motion, and it's still there. Why is it still there? Okay, this is weird. Oh, the root. Oh, the root. Okay, I'm so dumb. Okay, new tip. Never animate the root because everything moves with it. And that's one of the problems with the Motion Editor when you are capturing motion and then you try to edit after the fact, is that the root is animated as well, and that's totally not what we want. So let's go ahead and select the root. Root. And if we look closely, if we look at position Y, there is animation here. No. delete that. In fact, delete all of it. Get out of here, root animation. No. So now he's just jumping up and down, which, okay, I guess that works. He's just going to jump up and down for this tutorial. Or, yeah, let's just leave it like that just for the sake of time. Okay, normally I would move the feet over here, and then the pose would end up over here. So yes, never animate the root. Okay, back to the foot. Here we are at the foot. Doop, doop, doop. Now the foot is staying put. There we go. That's exactly what we wanted. Okay, so now the point that we want is, that looks good, and it goes up, and we'll notice now the foot rises way too quickly to this point. So we want to flatten out these keys. There we go, that looks a lot better. Now, we want it to come down quickly again so that it can capture this point. So now we're going to create another in-between here for the foot. And we're going to do the same thing. We're going to copy and paste. Copy and paste. There. Boom. So now that looks a lot more realistic. Now, that's important. Now you see here, this is where the leg straightens out. That's bad. So what we're going to want to do is get the foot slightly higher there. Put the toe so it hits first. And kaboom. There we go. Alright, so the foot looks good. Now the next foot. So next foot, always start with the feet, by the way. Alright, same general idea here. We want this foot to be planted. So we'll do the same thing we did before, copy and paste. Boom. And we get that straightening of the foot again. So we want to go ahead and move him back up. And camera's going nuts. Take the foot down. There we go. There we go. Look at that. Already, the jump looks 10 times better than it was before, just because we changed the legs. And this can use some more tweaking, of course. We've still got that straightening motion happen. And here, let's do another example of an in-between. So let's do the translation here. Now, this still doesn't look like the way it just goes out like that, so we're going to create another in-between. So M for in-between. And we're going to have him, leg starts in like that, and then it goes out. And then we're going to create another in-between here. So basically what we're doing is we're scrubbing through. And we're finding poses that work. And then we create the in-betweens to make the motion continue. So maybe we'll have this foot out still, like that, so it kind of stays out. And then we'll have a quick in-between here where it comes back in, to dump, like that. Now that foot's too far out, it's not going to work. We'll have the knee come back in. There we go. Now, see here, we've got a pose that's just not working. It's coming out, but then it doesn't go anywhere. So if you look at the curve here, it doesn't really make sense. So we're just going to have it be like that. There we go. You know what? Let's just have the foot land early. Let's have it land like right here. So we'll have the foot down, and then these keys, copy, paste. There we go. Boom, magic. All right, that's looking pretty good. You know, it could be better, but that's what the tweaking is for. The important thing is that the poses work, and that's what pose-to-pose animation is all about. You go from pose to pose, and every pose should look exactly the way you want it to. So, for example, that foot could probably down a little more. There we go. That pose looks a little better now. See that? That's just not working for me, so I'm going to adjust it again. I want every pose to look great. Every pose should look perfect. Alright, so now we're done with the legs for now. Let's move on to the hands. Okay, so right hand, same basic concept. We've got our lines, or we've got our keys here. We've got the hand going up really fast, and that doesn't make any sense. So for the in-between, that pose does not look like very good. So let's have the hand be like, comes out and then up, and then maybe for the back down right here in the middle, we'll have the hand stay up above a little longer, like that. So it's kind of dragging behind, woo, bam. So it's really, he just pounds the ground like that. So, and maybe we'll have the hand take a little while to come up too. So, whoop, like that. And that looks nice and dynamic. So let's go ahead and deselect everything, and let's play that. Woo! Hey, that's a pretty interesting looking jump, and we've literally only animated like 3 elements specifically. So this is something worth playing with. This gives you a general idea of what pose-to-pose animation is. The important thing is that you are focusing on the pose itself and then making the animation out of it. And it kind of just takes care of itself. And then after you've created the pose, it's just a matter of tweaking the animation in the way that you want it to be, using in-betweens. So you start with the key poses, which in this case was him standing up, getting down on the ground, and then being in the air, landing again, and then standing back up. And we've got that. And overall, it looks pretty good. Maybe he could be staying up a little longer, for example, and then coming down quicker. Like right around here, he just goes down really quick and then jumps. And we can do that now. But we don't need to make many new poses to that. I could just do that with curves. For example, let's just choose the entire scout. Make that flat. And then let's say about this part where he starts coming down. Right here, make a keyframe. So now we've got technically another pose. It's just the pose right before he goes down, and we're timing it so it happens about here. So he's like this, there. So now this is more of an example of choosing your timing. So if I wanted this pose, if I wanted to hover in the air a little bit there, I could create this as a pose, and then this one here is a second pose where he's kind of hanging in the air. And then I could just take all of that, move it all forward in time, a couple of frames, and now he's hovering a little longer. And I could do that to the extreme just to show what's going on. What? So and now that just looks realistic, although it's kind of cool. What? Like Matrix style. But no, it looked good the way it was before, where he just had that little bit of hang time, and then he comes down. Whoop. Whoop. Now see, this is what happens is once you start animating and you like something, you have a tendency to just want to watch it over and over again. And it's very important to just focus on the poses. Focus on what works, what doesn't work. Worry about the motion afterwards. So we're not doing any key manipulation at all. No tangents, no nothing. We're just looking at the poses. So that's the general idea of post-to-pose animation. I hope it makes sense. You could try something like this. You could try, I would not recommend trying a walk cycle. That's quite a bit more complicated than something like this. But, maybe a scout looking left in a certain pose like he's surprised, and then another pose that he's like, looking dejected or sad, or maybe he's one where he's standing up and he's looking fine, and then he gets shot, he falls over. That's another good example of simple pose-to-pose animation. whatever. Give it a try, and good luck. I'll see you guys in the next tutorial.